Hey everyone, hope you're having an awesome day. Today's video is going to be a 6v6 specific build, which means you're going to shred an Iron Banner. I'm going to go over everything and explain how the build works, so if you like this video, make sure you subscribe and let me know in the comments if you want to see more builds like this. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, for this build, you'll want to be using the Strand subclass. The first aspect you'll want to be using is the Thread Spectre. With this aspect, every time you dodge, a Strand clone will be created that will damage anyone who runs into it, as well as release threadlings that'll go after the nearest enemy when it's destroyed. You'll use this to your advantage whenever you're being chased like I was in this clip. The clone by itself will not take out anyone, but paired with our exotic armor, it will. The Bombardiers I used to think was a trash exotic, but I think with this build you'll agree with me, they're actually pretty good. So what they do is whenever you dodge, you'll leave behind an explosive that damages targets around it. Which means, not only will your Strand clone damage enemies, but your explosive will then finish them off. So now let's go over the second aspect, which is the offensive aspect to this build. The Whirling Maelstrom is the aspect that when a tangle is destroyed, it'll spin a damaging orb that'll continuously attack anyone near it. You can either shoot at the tangle or you can pick it up and throw it at someone, either way will proc it. Now I'm going to show you the fragments I use. The Thread of Ascent gives me 10 mobility, as well as whenever I activate my grenade, I gain bonus handling, and it reloads my weapon. The Thread of Binding gives me 10 resilience, which is why I'm using it, but it also sends out a damaging shockwave whenever I get super final blows. I'm also using the Thread of Generation because of any damage I do, I gain grenade energy back from it. This is the most important fragment in my opinion for this build, so I highly recommend it. The last fragment is the Thread of Isolation. This sends out a damaging shockwave whenever I hit multiple precision shots. Like I said though, feel free to change the fragments however you like, but the Thread of Generation is the only one I highly recommend for any Strand build you use. So now that we've gone over our subclass, let's get into our weapons. For this build, I wanted to try out the new Strand auto rifle Lord Saladbar has, and to my surprise, it's actually not that bad. It is a slow firing auto, but it doesn't feel like it. The first one I used was the one you get for free once you hit Saladin's Reputation level 4. Once you unlock it, you can then focus for a better roll, or just use this one. The roll you want will probably vary from the roll I want. However, I highly recommend you try to get one with Slice. What Slice does is after you dodge, your next few shots will sever your targets. This means that they'll do reduced damage to you, and when you defeat them, they'll turn into a tangle. With your second perk, you have options. On this roll I got Collective Action, which basically means whenever I throw my tangle, I get a damage buff. It also gives me the buff if I pick up any elemental pickups. Honestly though, I wanted either Hatchling or Onslaught, and I got mine with Hatchling. The gun by itself is actually pretty decent in 6v6, so whatever roll you have will be okay. The main thing is it's Strand, and that's what you want. You can substitute it though for another Strand weapon, but not everyone will have access to those, so I went with something everyone can get. Your secondary is optional. I love my Drang and recommend it if you have one, but it's not needed. You could use a shotgun, fusion, or another sidearm like Devil's Ruin. This one is totally off of your preference. Having said that, the Delicate Tomb is pretty fun to use with this build, if you can get past how bad this fusion rifle actually is. When you defeat a target with this fusion, you have a chance of spawning an Ionic Trace that would go great with the Collective Action perk. You don't need to be on an Arc subclass to spawn a Trace, but honestly, while this may be fun, I prefer my Drain. For your heavy, again, you can use whatever you like. Depending on whether or not you use an exotic for your secondary though, I recommend using any Iron Banner weapon. With the auto rifle and sidearm combo, mixed with your abilities on the Strand subclass, this build will easily help your team to win, even if you're solo queuing. Just make sure you stay within auto rifle range. For my armor mods, these are what I'm using, but you can change them depending on the weapons you choose to use. For my stats, I wanted to focus on my grenade and mobility. My resilience got to 100 through Strand fragments and mods, and the way I did this, that I recommend everyone take advantage of, is to go to Riven at the helm to focus high stat roll armor. Before you focus anything though, make sure you go to your ghost and choose a mod for a stat that you want to be high. Then go to the armor section of Riven's Ingram decoding and cross your fingers for that roll you need to complete your build. I recommend getting 4 of the 5 armor pieces so that you can still use your exotic armor piece. You can also take advantage of an artifact mod that I'll go over now. There's only a few you should care about, the others can be whatever. The main one is the Overload auto rifle because it does work in PvP and it procs often. These other mods are if you become radiant by another teammate and if you're using a solar secondary. The next one you should care about is Unraveling Orbs, which gives Strand weapons unraveling rounds that would turn defeated targets into threads after you pick up an Orb of Power. Horde Shuttle I chose because I thought it might work in PvP, but I don't believe it does. Same thing with Dragon's Bite, it may work in PvP, but it doesn't seem like it did for me, even with 4 pieces of Wish armor on. Wish into Being may also work, which is why on the off chance that it does, you'll be set with your armor and build. And that's it. This build I made for fun, and I had a lot of fun using it after I made some initial changes. Let me know in the comments if you tried this build and what you think of it. Thanks for watching, hope you have an awesome day, and I'll see you in the next video. Later.